Hey everyone, what is going on? What is going on? Welcome to the broadcast. My name is Curtis Brooks. I'm a men's life coach and executive coach for high achieving men. Guys, we got a great conversation for you this evening. And before we get started, I want to just talk about a few things that's on my heart, that's on my mind. And one, as a men's life coach or executive coach working with high achieving men, my goal is to change the scenery in regards to what us men are dealing with. My goal is to help set the captives free, myself included. And so that is the goal of this broadcast and the goal of every broadcast that I'll be doing here from there forth. And again, helping men to get out of that those tough and rough spots that we find ourselves in sometimes. And again, from some of the decisions that we've had to make. Different situations, but that is the goal, is to again help men to become the best versions of themselves. So tonight we're talking about how to become the change that you need. Again, we're talking about how to become the change that you need. I'll try and not be on too long, but sometimes I get carried away in these different conversations, and that's how it goes sometimes. And let me see if I come on, make sure I'm centered in the screen here. But nevertheless, so guys, we're talking about how to become or how to be the change that you need. And it's interesting because whenever we are talking about becoming something or becoming, it could be anything, changing your job or going back to school, oftentimes we have to do an assessment. And again, whether that assessment is something that we do amongst other friends or colleagues, or we're asking questions of people that we know, we oftentimes will have to do an assessment. And it's important for us to assess things, to be able to assess those things from a clear perspective, from a perspective that's going to give us the insight. Obviously, that's the goal, is getting insight. So it is absolutely essential that we assess those things, and we have to be prepared to assess those things from a sober space, if you will. And I think that one of the challenges that we often come across as people in general, not just men, but people in general, is that we can have a difficult time being honest with ourselves. And I don't necessarily think that's something that we're setting out to do deliberately, but we can find ourselves being in a place where it can be difficult for us to make the right assessment. And trust is oftentimes an issue with that as well. But we may get into the trust piece a little later, but initially we're talking about doing an assessment, and that's going to be the first thing that we need to do. And the first crucial thing that we need to do, because I think oftentimes we can find ourselves wanting to take part in different things in life, or perhaps it's something that we've seen other people do, or we've seen that other people experience, and we can find ourselves wanting to take part in that. And it looks fun, or just something that's just, wow, I'd love to do that. And there can be it can almost feel like there's something in the way. It can almost feel like there's something in the way, and that prevents us from taking that leap, or something that's attached to us, so to speak, that prevents us from stepping out on those dreams, stepping out on those goals. And so tonight we're talking about how to be the change that you need. Now, this need is past a desire. Okay, it's beyond desire. It's beyond just something that you are just, wow, that would be great. And it's beyond just something that you want, that you perhaps could put on the shelf with the rest of this stuff. But it is, in fact, something that you need, something that you yearn for. And again, different from a desire. Oh, I could desire that. And obviously, there's an intensity part that comes with the desire, and it depends on who it comes from. But nevertheless, beyond desire, beyond just want, something that you can put on the shelf or just alongside those other things that we've accomplished. But it's something that that after a careful consideration, after a comparative figure or just something I've put together in my mind or mental note that I've taken. And oftentimes that mental note is not something that you observed at that moment, but it's been something that's been observable for weeks, maybe years, months, I don't know, but it's been observable for an amount of time. And all of a sudden the light comes on. And that thing that you didn't know that you desired, or again, even that thing that you didn't know that you wanted, it now becomes a need because you've done the comparative analysis, so to speak, that takes place in our mind. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're writing things down, but you've done that comparative analysis, so to speak. Again, taking that mental note, and we can find ourselves in a place of like, I need this. And again, after we've done that comparative analysis, it 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 becomes an assessment that we have to do in order to take hold of it. We need to be prepared to do an assessment, much like with taking on perhaps a new job, going from a regular worker to a manager or a supervisor. There are certain things, certain criteria that need to be met according to the job, but then also there's certain personal criteria that we often will check upon ourselves, that personal criteria, and it doesn't necessarily mean that we're doing an assessment at that moment, but they are just mental notes that we take within our own selves that will determine if we move forward on something or if we just say, it's the desire, but I really don't want it that bad. And so because I don't really want it that bad, I'm not going to worry about making the changes and I'll just kind of stay where I'm at. But I'm talking about something completely different. I'm talking about once you've done the comparative analysis. And again, this is something that we've been quietly, in most cases, observing over a period of time, months, maybe years. And all of a sudden, we can find ourselves in a place where it's like, I need that thing. And so when we get to the place of needing that thing, we've got to do an assessment. That's the first thing that we need to do is do an assessment. Again, beyond the desire, oh, I just maybe, that sounds cool. That would be nice. Beyond the want, having to just put it on the shelf with the other accomplishments, things that we've achieved. But now we're in a place of need, and getting to that need is a whole nother series of different steps. But now that we are in that place of need, we are ready to do the assessment. And this assessment that we must do, you must do it. This assessment must be done. And in order to do this assessment, we must be prepared to look at ourselves. And I like to say the first thing that we must look at, especially if, and again, it's not just about going from a an employee to supervisor or to manager. No, it's not just about that. It's a deeper call. It's a deeper call. And that's obviously most of my conversations about the deeper call, that's something, that voice on the inside that's crying out for something different. That voice on the inside that's crying out for the change that's needed within our own selves. And this is exactly what I'm talking about. So it's not just about going from an employee to becoming a manager or a supervisor, but it's about taking the reins in our own lives, each of our respective lives. Give me a second here. And deciding that we're not going to go back. And I think when you get to that place of need, I'm using that word intentionally. When we get to a place of need versus want over desire, or desire over want, when you get to that place of need, you're ready to do the work. And in most cases, nothing can stop you from doing the work. And the work, again, is the assessment that I mentioned. That assessment is going to be crucial. And the assessment is essentially a character assessment. And here's the thing, to the level of honesty, to the level of honesty, and to the level of uh, uh, to the level of need, the thing that we're going after. And again, it can be anything, but I'm talking about a deeper desire for humanity to get this thing right. The human part of us to get the thing right, as we are connecting with others, as we're connecting with ourselves. And I think that first thing is to connect with ourselves. And so that's why this character assessment is absolutely crucial, guys. It's absolutely crucial. So I want to give you the definition of character because obviously we can all have a different definition of what character means, but this is out of the dictionary on my phone here, dictionary.com. So uh, it reads, the aggregate of features and traits that form the individual nature of some person or thing. There's a bunch of definitions here. So another is, let's see here, moral or ethical quality. Yet another is reputation. Another is an account of qualities or peculiarities of a person or a thing. Yet another. So here's the thing. I believe the things that it's one thing to desire something. It's yet another thing to want something, but yet a whole different space when we get into the arena of need. Because need to me implies that I'm ready to sacrifice something. I'm ready to give up something for this space that I'm trying to occupy. It means that I'm ready to put some things aside that once came as a distraction. I'm ready to isolate myself if need be. Not in a sense of isolating ourselves, but I'm ready to just give this thing my attention, give this thing the focus that's needed. I'm ready to indulge in this thing. I'm ready to prepare my appetite for this thing. I'm ready to put whatever I need to on the line in order to take hold of this thing. So if that's you and you've come to that place in regards to a need to be the change that you need to see within your own self, we've got to first do the assessment. And that assessment comes in way of character. Character is interesting because it's oftentimes, or I've heard many times where it's associated with the things that we do in private, not so much in person or in public, but the things that we do or the consistency, the level of consistency that we exude. So the things that we're doing in private, we're also doing those things. Excuse me, the things that we're doing in public, excuse me, we're also doing those things in private. And there's a level of consistency. And it's important for us to understand that God, the universe, however you want to relate to him or not, opportunities just don't show up because a person has done nothing, or opportunities don't show up because a person is wishing for them. Opportunities show up because a person has aligned themselves with the things that they are desiring. And oftentimes, the things that we desire, in most cases, especially when you're talking about this soul searching that needs to be done, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "Whatever a man sows, that will he reap." And it's not even just about the it's not even about so much just description alone, it's about the principle. Is that how we may show ourselves or show up to friends and family and public spaces and situations is one thing, but how we show up outside of those spaces is yet another thing. Hey, Preston J. Cole, thank you for joining, man. Thank you for joining. Appreciate you. So, how we show up for or within our private lives is yet a whole entire another situation. And the challenge is that there are oftentimes these inconsistencies. And when there are these inconsistencies, life has a way of just seeming like it's mundane or like nothing's happening in life when in fact something is happening. We can also get information when nothing is happening. It's not just a matter of, oh, we've got we've got certain information from the good things, but we can also get information when things don't work out the way that we have desired them to work out. And the challenge is that we oftentimes don't like to factor that information in. We can find ourselves going back to the drawing board, trying to put that thing back together again, or at least in a different way, trying to completely do away with the old instructions or directions and now coming up with something brand new. And much of what we are going to get out of life is about character. It's about character. We're talking about how to be the change that you need. It comes down to character, the assessment that I was talking about prior to you coming in, Preston. I was talking about an assessment that needs to be done. A character assessment needs to be done, not for other people, not for other people, but for us. For us, I've learned that the word forgiveness or to forgive other people, that's part of the character assessment. It truly is. It's part of the character assessment. And here's why it's part of the character assessment. Because through the right character, we we gain access to the things that we're going after. We are entitled now. We have the proper authority to access that space or fill that capacity or take upon that thing that we're going after. We now have the bona fide authority to take that space, that situation, that job, that opportunity, whatever the case might be, because the character is aligned with its intentions. And when the character of a person is not aligned with our intentions, mayhem is subject to break loose, chaos. And the very thing that you're asking for, it has a tendency not to show up. And so we can find ourselves, and again, this character assessment, guys, this is just one part of it now. We can find ourselves waiting for God to show up, waiting for people to say yes to what we're asking for, waiting to get that job or whatever it may be, guys. Character is such an interesting thing because people see our character, ladies and gentlemen. They see our character, not in a sense of where they can go through certain things or about us like a Rolodexer and say, "Hey, I see this, I see that." No, it's something that they see, and I just can't put my finger on it, but it's something that they see. That when our character lines up for the right opportunity, the thing that we set our hearts out for, set our hearts upon that, hey, I want to do this. Like, this is what I want. I want to get a brand new car, whatever the case might be. And it's not necessarily just for material things, guys. That don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. It's not so much about material things as it is that how opportunities show up in our lives, how our relationships are affected by our character. So it's not just about material things, but the things that we are drawn to, the things that are drawn to us. And a lot of times, even in the space of relationships, if we're, hey, Zakia, thank you for joining. Appreciate you, sister. And a lot of times, in the way of relationships, if our character is not together, we attract a certain people because here's the thing, we communicate out of a certain space, ladies and gentlemen. And when our character is not, is when, as people, when our character is out of alignment for the thing that we're seeking or the person that we're trying to become, aside from what people are seeing, because we can portray ourselves one way, but inwardly we're desiring to be something else or somewhere else. But what they see from a subconscious level, they may not necessarily be able to put their fingers on it, but what they see from a subconscious level is in fact what we are portraying. And if our character is not in alignment, and here's what I want to say. It's not necessary if you are seeking something or be it a new opportunity or a contract or whatever the case might be. Again, it's not just about material things, but even in the way of relationships. If you are going after something, again, uh, if you're seeking something, oftentimes or sometimes because it doesn't show up doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. Sometimes how we perceive people and opportunities that are presented to us. Now, this is fresh off the press, guys. A lot of times how we perceive people and opportunities that we think are good for us, and in fact, on an inward level, guys, they may not be good for you. So it doesn't mean that you've done something wrong or you need to go back to the drawing board and re-scramble your plans and try to figure out something and tweak this and tweak that. It doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. I just want us to, understand that as well. But this character, this assessment that I had mentioned earlier, it's more about the it's more about that inner man, that inner woman that needs to be changed. Because here's the thing, life for all of us, ladies and gentlemen, life for all of us has just dumped a bunch of stuff on us, man. And in most cases, it's not even our stuff. It's not even our stuff. We're oftentimes we're fighting battles that in most cases have nothing to do with us, but they're ours. They're our battles now. We've come into something that a fight that was already taking place, and we've got to assume the position and and rather quickly in most instances. So we have to be ready so that we don't have to get ready, the old saying, as the old saying goes. So this assessment that we have to do, it is essential, ladies and gentlemen, that we be prepared to look at the inner man. And the interesting thing about this inner man or inner woman, or I could say that as well, is that when we look inward, we can also see the character of another person. Once we clean up our stuff, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, uh, it talks about a man trying to, or a person trying to remove the speck out of their brother's eye. And meanwhile, they've got a plank in their own eye. So a much larger situation that they're dealing with, but yet they're trying to get the speck out of their brother's eye. And I can say this thing with character, about character, is that when we clean up our own character, then can you and I see the character of another person or see the character of a situation. So character doesn't necessarily mean that it's just about a person, but it could be a moment. It could be an opportunity. It could be the silence in the situation, the character. And when our character is cleaned up, we then place ourselves in a situation where we can potentially, I can say all in all times, in all cases, but potentially choose the right mate, potentially know what opportunity to go for. And I can tell you this, when your character's right, opportunities will search after you. Opportunities will seek after you when your character is right, because now your character places you in the right and in the right environment with people that you would not normally meet when your character is right. Now, let me say it this way. It does not mean that their character is right, but oftentimes people recognize a person with good character and they're drawn to us. So we can absolutely be in the right place at the right time. And in some instances, we find out the people that we esteem to a degree, we can find out these people, wait a minute, now I viewed this person as someone who had it together. And we find out that that's not the case. Just because they're not of good character does not mean they don't know what a good character is. Hey, Terry Cook, thank you for joining. Appreciate you. So, we've been talking about how to be the change you need. How to be the change you need. We've been talking about the character assessment. It's essential to become, it's essential in becoming the change that you need to do the character assessment. And the character assessment takes a lot of work because depending on your level or our level of honesty, excuse me, it's going to be it's going to make room for us. Uh, it's going to make room for or give us the access when our character. See, we gain access to opportunities through our character. Now, there's other components to this, but we essentially gain access to the opportunities in life, be it friendship, relationships, opportunities to go different places and meet different people. This is about character, and again, it does not mean that the people that we may, kind of bump elbows with, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the right character, but because of our character, it can place us in those different situations, good situations. So it is absolutely important that we recognize that character is a major component, and to the level of honesty that we are, to the level of opportunity, I should say, and the things that we're seeking in life is aligns itself with our level of honesty. And let's face it, if we cannot be honest with ourselves in our own private time, that's a problem. That's a problem. And I say this in really in a compassionate way. And let me say it this way, because most of us, myself included, guys, the world gives us an illusion. The world gives us an illusion, and and we can find ourselves chasing after that illusion. And so it can be difficult to can absolutely be difficult to be honest with ourselves, or at least to find that honest space. And or the term accountable. Find ourselves accountable to the things that went right, went well, and the things that didn't go well. Finding ourselves or holding ourselves accountable. It's not a punishment. It's not a punishment. It's not that you've been forsaken, but it is an opportunity where it's a tool. I think accountability is a great tool that we all should have in our arsenal. Me and my wife have not been married for too long, but one of the things I said to her in the very beginning is that uh, money is not a challenge because it's going to be about our character in this relationship. My character, her character. And since then, we have completely been blessed. We both have been blessed. And that's just how it goes, guys. And you can't escape this. There's no way to escape this. There's a scripture in the Bible that says that whatever a man sows that he reaps. You and I can't escape this. There's no way around this thing. Because what you do in private, it's only a matter of time that if it's not in alignment with your purpose and the direction you're going, you'll find yourself sitting at the pool, so to speak. Or there's another scripture in the Bible: the man sat at the pool for 38 years at the pool of Bethesda. And again, ladies and gentlemen, please understand that you can you can extract the principle out of certain things. Don't get so caught up in the story. Get the principle of the matter. So whatever a man sows, that is what he reaps. So if you sow discord, you're going to reap discord. If you sow dishonesty, a man or a woman will reap dishonesty. And just because you are a person of good character does not mean other people and their bad character won't show up. But if you and I stay in alignment for the purpose and a direction that we're going, has nothing to do, no merit on where they're going and the choices that they've made in regards to their level of dishonesty or bad character or however their character may show up for them. It has nothing to do with that. That's one of the things I've had to learn how to do is to separate some things. Because just because of one person may show up in a as a bad actor doesn't mean that I have to show up as a bad actor. A lot of times in life, you have these people want to who come as a distraction, so to speak. They come to try and influence our decisions. And so naturally, a person who is showing up in a bad mood or with bad character, it can absolutely infringe on our position, so to speak, mentally and emotionally. And we can find ourselves at times coming unglued or acting out of character. So I completely get it. I do understand it. Doesn't mean that it's not easy, but it doesn't mean that it's impossible. Because most of what people will bring to us, especially when we've got our minds made up about going in a particular direction, it takes character. It takes being prepared to let go of the things that can't go with you on that journey. There's some things and some people who just can't go with us, ladies and gentlemen. I too had to learn that, including family members, ladies and gentlemen. That's just the way it is. Even when we've been born to the same parents, had the same mother, same father, it's life. because along the way we pick up things. We all have picked up things that work in conflict with who we say we are and what we portray. We all have picked it up, guys. And that's why this assessment is so essential. It's hugely important is to look at our character, because when you made up your mind in regards to about where you are going, what you have defined in regards to what you need, I mentioned earlier in regards to this need is not just, oh, I need this. It's not a desire. It's not a want. It's a need. And that need is completely different from want and desire. Because when you arrive at a place of need, you're ready to sacrifice some things. You're ready to give up some things. You're ready to look into some things. You're ready to seek after some things. You're ready to ask the right questions. You're ready to open yourself up to listen. You're ready to become a student so that we can make the necessary changes so I can get what I need, not what I want in regards to placing those things on the shelf next to the other accomplishments. But when we're going after something because I need to change my eating habits. I need to lose some weight or whatever the case might be. Kind of talking to myself. I need to lose a few pounds for myself for sure. But you have to make a sacrifice. That's the difference between need. That is the difference when someone needs something versus want or desire. Need is on a whole different level. Need says, look, I can't talk to you right now. Need says, nope, nope, I got work to do. Need says, I'm intentionally isolating myself for a particular time. Need says, I got to study. So there's a major difference, guys. Major difference between want, desire, and there's need at the highest level, need. Because with need, you're ready to make the changes that are necessary to fill that void. Need represents a hunger, a capacity that needs to be filled, a yearning, so to speak. So, next part of this here, we're going to segue into. We're still talking about the assessment. We talk about the character assessment. I want to talk about the intent, the motive. Okay, uh, the character is oftentimes the attribute that we can display. And a lot of times they're just, let's face it, there's some good actors out here. You know, he, she, whoever they are, there's some great actors out here and they can portray good character. But character, the reason why opportunities come for the person with the right character, the good character, I should say, as opposed to those things that are just seemingly in life, it seems like they're repelling us, and it's just they won't come near us. Um, Character also searches the intent of the heart. Character, character is the motivation behind it, because when faced in different situations, a man's character shows up, or a woman's character shows up. So it absolutely has to be intent. There's character, there's what we portray, but then within the essence of character, there's the intent. There's the motivation behind it. There's a motive. I didn't write this down, but another word is integrity. Integrity. It's a huge word. Actually, probably something I should have wrote down, but I didn't. But it's a huge word that we need to consider because they all play into this need. They all play into a moral compass that is a part of all of us. And some will recognize it, and sometimes and other people don't recognize it. And it's not that people don't have. I don't believe that people don't have a moral value, but I think that at some point their moral compass it becomes singed, so to speak, desensitized. I think that's a better word. And becoming the becoming the change that you and I need is or requires. I'll put it this way: it requires us slowing down. It requires us slowing down to recognize that wait a minute, something's missing. That we can find ourselves, be it men or women, we can find ourselves arguing with our spouse more than we have in the past. Disagreements on for petty stuff, just or you know, irritated, agitated at the small things. People get on our last nerve so quickly, and in most cases, it's not. It's probably not them. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna. I'm not. I can't say definitively that people aren't out there trying to agitate us. I can't say that. That's not the case because people do sometimes. But the reality a lot of times is that those things that agitate us, and again, this applies to me as well. It's not excluded from this, but those things that agitate us, oftentimes, those are the things that we need to look at closer. Those are the things that we need to look at with a magnifying glass, so to speak. And again, looking at the intent, the motivation in our hearts, because we can portray character or the attributes of a person with a good character. We can portray kindness, loving, and being considerate and things of that nature. But the truth of the matter is, going back to whatever a man sows, that what is what he reaps. Ladies and gentlemen, we can't. You can't get beyond this. There's no secret door to get out of that. There's no underground tunnel or anything like that. That's just the principles in life. Whatever a man sows, that is what he reaps. And the reality of it is that if a man, to include women, if an individual or person can sow discord, and it seems like he or she is still accomplishing different things, no. And trust me when I say this, that he or she is getting it by some other means. That means that someone else or something else is funding that person because the principles don't lie. They don't go against themselves. The truth doesn't go against the truth and to destroy the truth. It doesn't work that way. Whatsoever a person sows is what he or she will reap. And so, as much as we can portray a person with good character, we also need the other piece of it, the the intent, the motivation in our heart. We need the integrity. The word integrity is fullness, something that's complete, whole. It's whole. There's nothing missing. If it's integral, it fits, it works, It's something that just is. And when we show up in life less than integrity, less than integral in relationship to the direction that we're going, be it forward, backwards, or to the right, to the left, or trying to make any kind of advancement in life, when we show up less than integral, it has to do directly with the character. And oftentimes, this is one of the reasons why we can't place our hand on that thing. And I'm not saying it's 100% of the time, but understand that the universe, God, whatever you want to call him, he hears. It listens to us, guys. Even now, there's a reason why there's not so many people here on this broadcast. The people who need to be here are the people that need to be here. If there was no one that needed to be here, there would be no one that would be here. It is that simple, guys. It really is. Things are not just happening because life has nothing else to do. They're being directed by our own leadership. Now, don't get me wrong now. When I say this, I'm going to try to hopefully make some sense of this, more sense of this, is that there are times when people will just absolutely hijack certain things. And we can find ourselves going after certain things and setting our sights on XYZ, whatever that might be. And it can feel like things are hijacked. And when it does, you have to understand there are systems in place, guys. There are systems in place. So it doesn't mean that you and I are doing anything wrong. There are systems in place that are absolutely sent for to hijack certain things. And we have to be mindful of that because as life has it sometimes, we can find ourselves at times, or at least it feels like we keep running up against a wall, keep running against the wall. And you can only hit that wall so many times until it begins to show a reflection in us, in all of us. So we have to be mindful of that. And it does not mean that we can't get get over that obstacle. But we also have to remember that nothing goes up forever. And there's also gonna we have to remember that just there is a to to everything that's hot, there's a cold. To the tall, there's short. To the uh I hope I'm getting this right here, but nevertheless, there's going to be to the east there's west, to the north there's south, and there's going to be a pull. There's always going to be a pulling, guys. If not by the people that we love, or by the systems that are in place, or the people who are part of this system. So there's always going to be a pull, and we have to be prepared to almost like put the thrusters on, because life sometimes can make us feel like we're sitting idle and nothing's happening. But we know that's not true, right? Because movement is always this. Nothing sits still. Just because we don't see that thing or something moving, something happening, does not mean nothing is happening. So it's important for us to understand that. But life in itself can absolutely make it seem like we are sitting on idle. And the more we learn about ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, in regards to this character, because you and I weren't born with the weight that we've been carrying. We weren't born with that stuff. I like to call it the rubble that was placed upon us, and now we've got to find our way out of it. And it takes people like myself and so many other people who are in this space that are having these conversations, because as long as we are doing life and no one is having these discussions or is talking about these different things, we can find ourselves at times, if we're not ready to make that change, we can find ourselves kind of going down that spiraling road or highway, or again, you can look at it different ways, but we can find ourselves in that downward spiral. And that's not what this is about. This is about becoming the change that you need to change your situation. We've got to learn about ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. You've got to learn about how this machine operates. And the less we know about ourselves, the more they are prepared to use us on the outside. The reality of it is that, again, this is not about Democrat, about Republican. I don't like any of them. Be honest with you. I don't care 2 cents about any of them. But what I do care about is you and myself, getting you the right information that's going to help you become the change that you need. That's the whole point of this. The more we learn about ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, and the challenges that we face in life, or upon those challenges, how they are affecting us. And life is absolutely going to be full of challenges. That's just how it is. But we know that, and we can prepare ourselves accordingly. We don't always know to what magnitude the challenge is going to be, but we can prepare ourselves. So that's why it is so important for you and I to know ourselves, because when we don't know ourselves on a deeper level, having built up the resilience, the resistance, allowing certain things to fall off our back like water, or like water on a duck's back, because we can't go after everything. But we can find ourselves learning more about ourselves. Excuse me. We can find ourselves building resistance, building capacity, building volume, building depth to who we are, because that's truly who we are. We are deep people. We are deep people, ladies and gentlemen. We're not shallow people by any stretch of the imagination. But when you and I, myself included, when we've been given a diet that's worthless, diet of education, diet of just this stuff and this world that we're dealing with. When you and I have been given a bad diet from the beginning, you can bet your bottom dollar that the strength that we need on the inside is not going to be there. Because what happens is that we've been fighting an external fight with a physical fight, I should say. That external fight as well, outwardly. But yet the battle takes place on the inside in here. And so when we don't know ourselves, we've left this this person, and I'm pointing to my head here, and like I'm pointing to my mind, but the person here affecting how we think when we have left that person by himself or herself, not having been fed on the true things that matter. This person here, from the thinking perspective and from the heart perspective, this person can still be a child in here because the person never received the proper diet. The diet that the person received, you myself included, the diet that we received was built on an illusion. That's the diet that most of us received. And that's why for many of us, we can find it very difficult with being honest with ourselves because we don't know what that honesty looks like. And in truth, even if we touch that honesty, it's likely to crush us because how we may have seen ourselves, how we see ourselves as how we think the world sees us. But let me share this with you. That's not always true. There's a version of how you see yourself, how I see myself. There's a version of how our parents see us, how our children see us, how society sees us. And in most cases, they don't line up with how we see ourselves. And so naturally, we can find ourselves trying to build up something, build a reputation that's trying to cover all the bases. How our children see us, how society sees us, how our spouse or significant other sees us. We can find ourselves, and not to mention how we see ourselves. That's a lot of different masks to wear. Not to mention, and different situations, other people that we might meet. The mask that we wear in some kind of gala or at some kind of gala or event. That's a lot of different masks to wear. That's a lot of different personas that need to show up. So it can be understanding why it can be difficult for us as individuals to be honest with ourselves and eventually become the change that we need because we can find ourselves fulfilling the illusion that society has put together. And we don't know ourselves. And when we don't know ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, the changes that will come up inwardly in each of us, at times not having the words to express them, at times not knowing what the heck just happened. Those are the things that can crush us. And oftentimes, those are the things that do crush us. Because in most cases, guess what? Many of us know how to play the game outwardly. We know what we need to do out there to put the face on or make the face up. Been there, done that too. We know exactly what we need to do. But now the challenge is making up our minds and saying, I'm past the desire for those other things. I'm past the want for those other things. I'm in a place where I need to change. And it doesn't mean that you and I have done something so wrong, or that's not the point I'm making. Even as I was preparing the church just past Sunday, um, I remember in a conversation with God as I was preparing for church. I got up and prayed before I went to church, and I was talking to God about a recipe, and not a specific recipe, just a recipe. And the conversation went something like this: "Well, Curtis, if you're going to make something different, you've got to use different ingredients, perhaps." And it wasn't just about the ingredients alone, but it was the quality of the ingredients. And now let's translate this to character and integrity. The quality of ingredients being that, hey, I've given my word. I'm standing on this thing. I'm 100% into this thing. I may take some hits with it, because rest assured, people in life, and or the kids, the significant other, the husband, the wife, they're going to say things that are going to try to pull me away from these things, not intentionally. It's like trying to diet, and yet your kids are eating pizza, walking by you eating pizza. Hey, what's mom, dad, what am I having for dinner? But yet you're in a diet. And you're saying, and you maybe not you maybe you haven't shared it with the family, but it's on that level. But there are times when you don't say anything, and it can feel like the world is after you, because now I've made a decision. I've drawn the line into the sand. I've made a decision, and I'm going to go in this direction. And it can feel like the world is now trying to pull you yet in a different direction. And now you and I have to make a decision that I'm going to follow this thing I'm going after. I'm going to be the integrity that's needed. I'm going to wholly follow this thing, whatever I'm going after, whatever that might be for you. We have to make a decision. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. We have to be prepared to make a decision and know that in making that decision, uh, there are going to be things that we have to sacrifice, because in the way of, once we've made that decision, oftentimes our feelings don't fit into that space. We can't take our feelings with us, because our feelings oftentimes will lie to us. Our feelings will oftentimes discourage us. And we have to be prepared to know the difference. It's like this, in line with what I've been sharing with you, uh, knowing the character of God, knowing the character of a person that you can trust 100%. And I say God, and I'm not speaking of the religious stuff out there. That's just, I'm beyond that nonsense. But I'm saying a relationship. And it's knowing the character of that entity, knowing the character of a person that you completely trust, having being fully persuaded that I can trust this person. You can trust that person, this thing. And yet, when conversations come up contrary to the direction that you're going, or that you made up your mind and where you want to go, when conversations come up contrary to where you're going to go, where you're deciding to go, we know that's not their character. We know that's not the character of God. God is 100% whole. There's nothing missing about him. He's confident, he's faithful, he's trustworthy, he's reliable, he's consistent. So if anything comes up outside of that, we know that it's not the character of God. So there's no need to get our feelings involved in it and giving ourselves over to the very thought that's contrary to God or contrary to what we know the character of this mighty being. So when things come up outside of what we know, what I have experienced, what you may have experienced, we know it's not the person that I trust in. It's not the person that I believe in. It's not the rock that I've set my faith on. Hey, Kinga, thanks for joining. Appreciate you. So it is important to, again, make sure that we are uh, checking the character. Hey, Kinga, thank you. Checking our character, again, through that assessment that I mentioned. It's important that we are checking our heart, the intent of our heart, the motivation. What's behind the motivation? Because we all know that we can portray character. But as I shared with you earlier, whatever a man sows is what he will reap. Okay, so we there's no two ways about that. You can't sow the workings of hell and get the kingdom of God. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It doesn't work that way. Oh, absolutely. Is it okay? Absolutely, Kinga. Absolutely. Yeah. We're talking about how to become the change that you need to be. So it's not just relegated to men, but absolutely. I appreciate you, Kinga. Thank you. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it is important again, do that character absolutely. You're funny. Absolutely. Again, thank you, Kinga. So do that assessment, ladies and gentlemen. That assessment is absolutely needed, a character assessment. And as I stated earlier, oftentimes the challenge with us doing that, a character assessment, is that a lot of us, guys, ladies and gentlemen, it takes work. It takes work to know, not me, I'm pointing to me in the sense just knowing myself, but it takes work to know who you are because we can find ourselves so busy and distracted to a degree, a large degree, purposely in many cases, distracted away from knowing who we are. And when we don't know who we are, you can't experience the benefits of just how wonderfully m- you and I have been created. Man, come on now. We have life. We can, man, it's just I think it's completely awesome. But nevertheless, life can be mundane. But we have to also understand that a lot of this stuff has been placed upon us, ladies and gentlemen. They don't want us to know who we are. It's important that you know more about the president who's running and or whoever's in office. Important that, in their eyes. But as long as they can keep us distracted, yeah, and yeah, and you enjoy the mundane. Interesting. Yeah, yeah. Expound on that one. I'm not. Are you being facetious when you say that? Expound on that. I enjoy the mundane. That's interesting. I guess from my when I say the mundane, meaning just to kind of that do, the same old, same old. But again, getting the joy. Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, gotcha, I got you, King, thank you, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy that in that sense of it, yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, this conversation is really, been about, more that inner man who is, trying to escape the routines of this mundane life that's been given to us, and we through no other course, oftentimes we accept it, and so it's that person trying to uh, get their life back, and be able to make a decision for themselves in regards to what they want to do with their life and how they want to spend their life. And oftentimes, unfortunately, those decisions have been made for us, and so we can find ourselves playing their game and dancing to the dancing to the music that they've put together for us. And so again, we talked about the character assessment that is absolutely essential to uh, becoming the change that you need. Knowing the motivation of your heart, the proper motivation, the right motivation. Again, what is the intent of your heart? Alignment with your character, because again, if your character does not fill that capacity, fill that space, the right or the intent and the right motivation doesn't fill it either. Talked about integrity, integrity being complete, integrity being whole. And if we are short on character, hey, Mike, thanks for joining, man. Appreciate you. We're talking about how to become the change that you need. So if we are short on character, um, we're absolutely, if we're short on integrity, we're short on character as well. And the world, life, it repels those things that we have not um, that we have not made a decision on, that we have not come into a space of need. I need this because, and again, as I mentioned earlier, need to need something and versus want or desire, those things are completely different. Need means that, for me at least, you're ready to sacrifice some things. You're ready to make some changes. You're ready to say, "Hey, I'm going all in on this thing," and that means that you are going to have to make some sacrifices. And oftentimes, you're ready to put it all on the line for that need. And again, there is a need to change. And again, regardless of your respective situations, uh, uh, view it from that lens, from what I've been sharing with you. Look at it from those lenses. It's not a judgment call, ladies and gentlemen, by any stretch of the imagination. It is an understanding that we must come to. It is an understanding that oftentimes that's not given to us through different forms of media. It's something that we oftentimes have to discover ourselves, and and platforms such as this here or other platforms. But we have to come into this understanding that there's a greater need, other than there's a need for the body to, or the mind to have the proper diet. The heart needs the proper diet. And when we've been given the stuff that we've been given throughout this life that we live, it's no wonder why many people are just hungry for companionship, hungry for, uh, again, a host of different things, hungry for change in their lives. And so it's just kind of keep that in mind again, as we've been talking about how to be the change that you need. Another is, I think I mentioned capacity. Okay, now these are all things that it may seem like I've kind of gone a long way around it, but well before we can even set a goal, guys, in regards to what you are seeking in life, well before you can set a goal, you've got to do that assessment. So I mentioned briefly about capacity. Capacity is going to be that space that you create out of resilience, out of uh, uh, just dealing with the highs and lows out of your effectiveness, your ability to go in and lead that situation, your ability, our individual and respective or collective ability to go in to lead that situation, lead ourselves through that situation, and knowing that again that the resilience is absolutely needed and again in creating that resilience we create the capacity, creating the having to go through certain things without falling apart doesn't mean that we're not going to have those tough times, those challenges, doesn't mean that, but what it does mean that we can call upon each other and say, "Hey, man. Hey, what's up? Help me out with this. Whatever. I'm having some challenges with this." We need wisdom, but oftentimes this wisdom that we've been pulling on is the wisdom that comes from the world. There are two different things. It's a spiritual wisdom, and it is a wisdom that comes from the world. Absolutely. Mike says, "Love your neighbor as yourself starts with knowing yourself." Hugely. Mike is another guy that you guys need to follow. This guy is powerful. I've been following him on LinkedIn for quite some time, and Zakia is powerful, absolutely. And many of the other people, I'm pretty new. Kinga is pretty powerful. She covers a lot of different things. I've just kind of just recently met Kinga. Terry Cook, I should say, new to Terry. Zakia, Preston J. Cole. I think I know a little bit about Preston. But nevertheless, want to say, Mike, thank you for that comment. And I kind of just went over that earlier as well. Love your neighbor as yourself starts with knowing yourself. Absolutely. And I think the more we know ourselves, guys, the more we can put the rest, the fears, the mystery of who we are, and you are just created to be absolutely wonderful. You're created to the do the miraculous. You're created with you're created through the eyes of God, with God, how God sees you. And and when we find ourselves believing anything else other than, we can find ourselves just coming up short in life and just missing how wonderful life is. I'm not saying that the stuff that's happening, that's not what I'm saying. The stuff is happening, it's not wonderful. There's nothing wonderful about it. But understand that even the life that we're living in right now, you and I have the ability, yeah, you and I have the ability to be creators. You and I have the ability to influence others. And when I say influence others, I mean in the most respectful way. Because at the end of the day, I there's no way in, pardon my language, there's no way in hell I would come on this do this broadcast and give you the wrong information. There's no way in hell I would come on and give you the wrong information. Something that I have not experienced myself. This thing is real, guys. I would be completely disappointed in myself, and that's absolutely not. That's not me. That's just a waste of time. And so I'm here not to play games. I'm here not to play games. That's not my MO. And I don't like to deal with people that play games. That's period across the board. Mike says, as images of God, we are limitless in him. Absolutely, Michael. Mike, absolutely. Guys, this is your inheritance, guys. It's like someone trying to rob us of who we are. Someone's trying to take a child's inheritance, and that when you don't know from a spiritual perspective that you and I have an inheritance. This is not it for us. And I'm not talking about waiting till you get to heaven. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about experiencing the goodness of God. I'm talking about getting on the other side of your trauma, getting on this other side of your pain, whatever that might be for you. Getting on the other side of it. Because right now it can feel like it's just pulling on you. There's that spiraling motion, downward motion that's taking place, and it's pulling on you, and it can feel like it's getting worse. I'm here to tell you, years ago I took flight lessons, but I'm here to tell you, pull up, man, pull up, pull up, pull the yoke back. That's what these conversations is about. Here to let you know that you can pull the yoke up now. Pull the yoke towards you. You can come out of that turn if you're ready to come out of it. You can come out of that situation if you want to. That doesn't have to be your destiny. That doesn't have to be your end. So I would be completely dismissed to come on either Substack or any of these other platforms to perform in this way and give you erroneous information. Completely. So I want you to take what you need from this conversation. To take what you need from this conversation. Because if you're ready to be the change that you need, as Mike said here in the comments, as images of God, we are limitless in Him. And let me clarify this. I'm not talking about the God of those bozo religions out there. I'm not even talking about Christianity. I'm not even talking about being Islam or a Muslim. I'm not talking about any of that. Hinduism, none of that. I'm talking about having a direct relationship with God, a personal relationship with Him. Many of us have been trying to attract this God, this mystery God, and He's not a mystery. We've just been given erroneous information about Him. He's not a mystery. So I would be completely dismissed if I were coming to you any other way. So I'm not just coming in here to waste my time. I'm coming in here to help. My goal is to help set the captives free. I'm doing my part in this, and I love what I'm doing here. Mike says principalities and powers, bro. Absolutely. I'm not sure if many of you know what principalities are. Perhaps you know what the terminology is, but or the what the word means in itself, but uh, principalities are governing areas or regions or certain locales. And a lot of times in different cities, you will have one area where it's just completely poor. And right on the other side of the wall, you might have an area that's well to do and just wealthy. Those oftentimes are what they call principalities. They're, again, local regions or areas within a community or nations and things of that nature that are controlling powers or authorities over certain areas, and this is oftentimes the things that are in place. Is that we're dealing with the principalities and the powers that come with uh, controlling landlords. I'll put it that way. So. The last thing we want to do here is to set a goal. I know I've talked a lot about the character and things of that nature. Setting a goal is not always easy, but again, well before we can get to the assessment, the character assessment, uh, the uh, the intent and the motive of our heart, as we clear the path for those things, we create capacity, and when we create capacity, we can make room to um, establish those certain goals and believe for those certain goals through faith. And faith, guys, let's not get I'm not sure where either one of you are at, but faith doesn't necessarily have to be about a religious thing, but faith is absolutely important because if you sit down in a chair with four legs, you've got faith in that chair that it's going to hold you, that the legs will not collapse. All right. So faith is again, that's an overly simplified way, but or a point, but hopefully you get it what I'm saying here. So it's not just relegated to religion. It is an understanding that faith is essential. Faith is essential to climbing out of the situation that you and I may be in. It's essential to making the necessary changes. Having faith that I'm going to stick with this thing, having faith I'm going to stick with this diet, having faith I'm going to stick with the plan that I've set out for my life. And I know that no sooner than I set the plans for my life, there are going to be all kinds of stuff that will come against it. In most cases, it'll be me, it'll be you. Look, we'll come against the things that we've established, not intentionally, because sometimes we have to, again, as I mentioned earlier, we have to be prepared to do that character assessment. Excuse me. And doing that character assessment, we can move, we can be prepared to clear the path, essentially. Prepared to clear the path so that we can receive what we say we have. This thing in regards to just coming into or becoming the change that you need is so much about alignment, about a spiritual alignment. It's not about the work that you may have done outwardly in regards to how many cars you might have, how many homes you might have, or your status on your job, or your VP, your CEO. That has nothing to do with it because we all know that there are people throughout the world, people we've known who have been CEOs and just not good people. CEOs of companies, vice presidents of companies, uh, presidents, and I'm not necessarily talking about our current president. I'm just speaking in general. Just speaking in general, people, leaders of countries that have not just been good people, but they either forced themselves upon other people to take that position, or the people voted them in, whatever the case might be. But just because we are in these particular positions doesn't mean that we're good people. And sometimes, or oftentimes, to take hold of the things that we need to do that we would like to take hold of outside of the norm or outside of what we have been experiencing, we have to be prepared to put something different into it. We have to be prepared to make a different cake, a different pie, or whatever the case might be, but be prepared to put different ingredients in it. Be prepared to assess, okay, maybe I use too much salt, maybe I use too much baking soda, whatever the case might be. We need to be prepared to assess the situation. And once we've got past the assessment, once we've got past the intent of our hearts, the motivation of our hearts, um, the integrity piece of it, that's a huge piece, guys. They all kind of flow together here. And once we've gotten past those things, we can create the capacity. Our lives become enlarged, so to speak. The territory becomes enlarged. And once we have done those things, we can absolutely be prepared to set clear, concise goals. And that's my last point. Our goals must be clear and they must be concise. And oftentimes and I think many of us are used to, perhaps used to setting goals and, oh, I want to do this in 5, 6 months, or a year goal, 2 years goals. But when you're working on the character of a person, when we're working on our own character, and the things that need to take place within our own lives, the changes that we need to make, uh, it doesn't quite work that way in regards to uh, 6 months, a year, 2 years, and things of that nature. Because a lot of times, the people that we're around, they pull out certain things in us, and we have to be prepared to recognize recognize the feelings, the behavior that comes up out of us. Maybe not necessarily on display, but a lot of times when we are being tested, there are behaviors that show up on the inside here. We begin to feel a certain way before we even put those things on display. So we have to be mindful of how our body is responding to certain things. And as we are passing that test, then we can find ourselves creating the capacity. And when we create the capacity, we take on what I like to say that spiritual promotion. But without the character, without the right intent or the motive in our heart, without the integrity, without pressing forth in the way of the integrity, I'm going to complete this task. I'm going to fulfill the obligation that's mandated or the mission, the assignment. Without the integrity, the wholeness of that thing that you're going after, the fullness, the completeness of that thing that you're going after, there is no capacity. Our growth can feel stunted, if you will. But when you have those things in place, the capacity in each of us expands. And when the capacity expands, we can find ourselves ready, being promoted, not even knowing that you've been promoted. And when I say that, or what I mean when I say that, is that from my own experience, I found myself a lot of times is that the promotion didn't come with a notice. I didn't get an email. I didn't get a memo or anything like that. I didn't get something that came in the mail by way of the postal service. No FedEx or UPS package. But what I did get was a peace about the things that try to be a disturbance or a distraction, or that were a disturbance and a distraction at a period of time repeatedly. And now I find myself walking through that thing with a peace and not even, in some cases, not even aware of the extent that was around, or just the compelling force that was around me at times. Not even taking it in fully because I had graduated, because you've graduated. So again, oftentimes that promotion, that once you have fulfilled those different things I've shared with you, the graduation, the promotion, so to speak, it happens. You become it. And in most cases, you don't even know that you're there already. So I hope this conversation has been a blessing to you guys. And yeah, I've been on for an hour and a half. And if you guys have any questions, I'll absolutely stay on for a few minutes longer if you have any questions. If not, we're looking at about 8:30 my time. I'm here in Central Time near Houston, Texas, actually just outside of Houston. So if you have any questions, I can surely answer any questions you might have. And Michael, if you're still listening, or Mike, if you're still listening, you might like this one here. Um, I will typically go out and walk with my baby girl, who's 2 years old, and I will put her in a stroller at first, and then I will. Then she will say, "Yeah, yeah, I want to walk, Dad. Get out the stroller." So I let her walk, and then she wants to go back in the stroller, or she wants me to carry her. I say, "Oh no, no, no. Okay, Daddy, want because we're typically out there walking for about good 45 minutes to an hour." So I'm like, "Okay, no, you're gonna get way too heavy, girl, for me to carry you the whole time." And we had been having this conversation, and we've been talking about birds, and then she would always ask me about, "Dad, what's that noise? Dad, what's that noise?" And I was like, "Huh." It's at times I just kind of get, in the beginning I would get a little irritated. Baby girl, I know, Daddy doesn't know. I don't know, Bella. My daughter's name is Bella. Bella, I don't know. And then finally, I just said, I said, Bella, baby girl, this is some other time during our conversation. I would say, baby girl, that's the birds. The birds are chirping, and I say they communicate differently and on different levels and things of that nature. And I said, much like you and I are talking as a daddy and daughter, you and I are talking. The birds are communicating, and we can't understand what they're saying. They can't understand what we're saying, but they're communicating. And I said, every animal that God has created, communicates on some level, some way. But nevertheless, we can't hear that communication. And what was given to me, Mike, is that it is similar to the way that God communicates with us, brother. And the more we reverence Him, man. And this is outside. I'm done with the conversation, guys. Just wanted to share this thought here. But outside of that, man, God was sharing with me is that That's how He communicates with us. And the more we reverence Him, again, with the right heart, brother, and with the right motivation, out of the right character, he gives us access. He gives us access to Him, man. And that communication is different from one person to another person. It's different, but nevertheless, He gives us access to Him by through a higher level of communication. And I think the more and more we reverence Him, we can find ourselves leaning on Him, leaning towards Him, and just in need of Him. And the more we find ourselves in need of Him, more and more He set us aside, man, to be a part of the great work that He wants to do in this world, man, and even with each other. And it's not just about the world, but in each other, because we need the encouragement. Every last one of us need the encouragement. I need the encouragement at times too. Absolutely, guys. So no one person. Yeah. Mike says we are made for relationship with Him and each other. Yes, absolutely. That's our purpose. And yes, lean in. Yes, brother. Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. Well said, Mike. Yeah, that's worth reading again. Mike says, we are made for relationships with Him meaning God, and each other. That's our purpose. And yes, lean in, lean in, lean in. Absolutely. Yeah, trust can be a little bit challenging sometimes. Trust, it can be challenging because we can not trust people because they've shown us that we can't trust them. And then now here's God saying, "Trust me." Now here is God saying, "Trust me." It's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. It's not impossible, but that means that you have to give up some of those feelings that we've attached to some of those experiences, things that we've gone through. Um, we've got to forgive some people that hurt us, because even in the way of forgiveness, on the other side of forgiveness is access to Him. On the other side of forgiveness, guys, is access to Him. And when we are in a place where we're not forgiving, we cut ourselves off from God. We cut ourselves off from the resource that is available for us, available to us, the resource that we were all born out of. The resources that he uses us as a source. Each of us, myself, you, and all the millions and billions of people here on the earth. But when we're shut off to him or from him, we can find ourselves waiting upon natural solutions to spiritual things and truly miss the voice of God and that he's talking to everything that he created. And this has nothing to do with gender. He's talking to everyone, everything that he's created, everyone. It's nothing to do with politics, Republican or Democrat. So let's not go there. But a relationship. So that being said, guys, I'm gonna wish you all a good night. Yeah, Mike says we need to surrender love. Absolutely. Yeah, Mike, that's a powerful statement, brother. And kind of what I was saying earlier is that I said it in a way of honesty. If we, if we're not honest with ourselves, at least I started to say it. Then I corrected myself. But even getting to love, man, some things have to be stripped down, brother. Some things have to go back to the basics, and it can absolutely feel like you're naked, brother. And but naked in a sense of just being exposed, man. And and when I say not being exposed, not in a bad way, but that's that wholeness, that's that completeness. And I love that word surrender. I absolutely love that word. It's one of my favorite words, surrender. That's one of my favorite words is surrender. So it can be difficult getting to that place of love, brother. Um, Easier said than done. Not impossible. Definitely not impossible. But we have to surrender we have to surrender the pain that we have experienced. Not, and I'm not saying forget it, but we have to surrender it because if we keep our feelings there, we can be we can find ourselves carrying that baggage. So it can be tough to surrender those feelings, and that's in most cases the feelings from different experiences. Uh, in most cases, those feelings through having a relationship with God, are the feelings that lead us to repent, to recover, to restore. But the challenge is a lot of times, a lot of us don't want to deal with those feelings from those former experiences because it reminds us of certain things, or we're we're still holding on to the feelings and not knowing how to let them go. And now those feelings, along with the experiences that's being repeated over and over in our minds or looping, um, it can feel like we're in this downward spiral. But the feelings aren't there for us or a place for us to live at. That's not a place where we can live at. But most of us can find ourselves living there. And in reality, we can find ourselves by ourselves living there because nobody else is living there. Nobody else knows what you're going through. But until you expose this serpent, so to speak, who's been telling lies to you, be ready to pull the carpet out from under his feet until you're ready. You and I are ready to do that. We can find ourselves again in that downward spiral. And because in most cases, not most cases, he's lying to you. Your thoughts, your feelings are lying to you. You don't have to live there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not sure why I'm still on. But yeah, you don't have to live there. You don't. You don't. Yeah, there's a word that has come to set the captives free. Seriously. There's a word that comes to set the captives free. And um, sometimes it's hard for us to receive that word, receive freedom when we're so engulfed in the feelings and in the experience. It's hard for us to open our hands. We've got the experience here, we got the feelings here. Both hands are full. So it can be difficult for us taking on something else different or replacing, not necessarily getting rid of the experience, but replacing the feelings, replacing the emotions with something else greater, with a love actually, rather than the feelings of being tormented by that person or individual or those thoughts. We're replacing those feelings with a feeling of love. And so it can be difficult accepting love, receiving love with open hands. And you've got your hand full with anger and bitterness and strife. And in some cases, rightfully so, because you were disenfranchised on some level. But now you've been holding that thing for umpteen years now. And there's a word that comes to set you and I free, set the captives free. Because you and I at a time were held captive by those thoughts, those fears, like a prisoner. And now there's a word that comes to say, hey, no, you're loved. You're absolutely loved. And love is what unlocks the door. But you have to be prepared to receive it first. You have to be prepared to receive it. And in order to receive it, you got to open your hand and know that the feelings are going to try to come back. But also know that you're also covered. You're protected. So that being said, guys, I will get off my soapbox and pray that you guys have, you all, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful evening, and hope this message has been uh, freeing for you, liberation for you, liberates you in some way, give you new insight that you did not have at a particular time. So uh, we will chat with you next time, guys. Ciao. Bye bye. Ciao.